Hello, my name is Jacob Hillhouse, and I'll be making the argument that the CIA and other intelligence agencies have not had a positive effect on U.S. foreign policy. I want to begin my argument by addressing the possible counterarguments. The opposition will likely raise that without these intelligence agencies, the United States would be unable to conduct accurate foreign policy at all. I agree with this position, and I'm not advocating for a destruction of these intelligence agencies, but overall they must be accurately reformed in order to be effective. I repeat, I'm not arguing for the complete removal of the CIA and other intelligence agencies, but merely pointing out their negative effect on U.S. foreign policy thus far and why we have to reform them if they are to be successful in the future. I'll begin with the relative start of the CIA. In one of its first failed operatives, the Bay of Pigs during the Kennedy administration, the CIA failed miserably to overthrow the government of Fidel Castro. This cast doubt on all of President Kennedy's and President Johnson's actions in foreign policy and really weakened Americans' beliefs in certain institutions. In the 1970s, the CIA was responsible for several coups in the Latin American world, instilling harsh dictatorships in order to combat the alleged rise of communism. Its failure to influence President Johnson and Kennedy led to our involvement in the Vietnam War. Misused intelligence led these presidents to believe that the Viet Minh and the Viet Cong could be defeated by conventional standards. The North Vietnamese were not waging a war for communism, but for liberation, and the CIA and other intelligence agencies failed to see that, leading to over 50,000 American deaths and countless deaths of Vietnamese. The war in Vietnam fundamentally points to the failure of intelligence agencies like the CIA and why they've overall been harmful to our foreign policy. In the 1980s, the CIA supplied tactical support, weapons, and bases for the Mujahideen fighters against the Soviets and the Soviet-Afghan War. The Mujahideen, however, transformed into the Taliban after Afghanistan's liberation and the fall of the Soviet Union. The CIA often makes foreign policy decisions without regarding what may take place in the future. They only think about how to solve the current crisis, and often this is not the best method to create peace and stability in the nations they are involved in. For instance, the Taliban then used the tunnels that the CIA created during the Soviet-Afghan War against the United States forces in the Afghanistan War. And before I go on, I have to mention the intelligence agency's failure to predict or stop the 9/11 terrorist attacks, a legitimate foreign attack against our country. If our intelligence agencies cannot stop attack against our nation, what can they do? And how have they been successful overall in foreign policy? The war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq bred resentment against the United States, growing the ranks of extremists and growing extremism in the Middle East. Despite nearly 20 years of war, the Taliban still has much land as it did in 2001, meaning our intelligence agencies have been failing us in this region for actual decades. Now continuing on to the war in Iraq. Now, this failure I do blame mostly on the Bush administration, especially Vice President Cheney. And through this intelligence that the CIA provided, Cheney was able to convince Americans that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. The disastrous war in Iraq directly led to the birth of ISIS in the region. So we can see how bad intelligence can create bad foreign policy decisions, and how it is up to every single bureaucrat and every single president to be able to accurately sift through all this intelligence and find out what is true and what is not. instead of the CIA presenting thoroughly investigated intelligence, and our foreign policy deciders use that instead. We can see a pattern here of bad intelligence decisions leading to more and more foreign problems and conflicts, just like with the growth of ISIS out of the war in Iraq. What will happen after ISIS? With the supposed defeat of them, what will take their place? What will rise instead of ISIS? Will our intelligence agencies make the correct call? History says probably not. Once again, I'm not arguing that all intelligence agencies need to be destroyed, but they must be accurately reformed if they are to be successful. To finalize my argument, I once again state that intelligence agencies have not been beneficial to our foreign policy overall because of failures in intelligence in the last 6 decades. I want to thank you all for listening, and I want all of you to have a great day. Thank you so much.